too, that when you wake up, if you look at God at night and you wake up a different person. How many of you read your Bible at night, right before you go to bed, to clear your mind? You guys ever go to a perfume shop where you go in there and you smell a bag of like a coffee beans and like you reset your nose? It's like, okay, I get that cologne smell out of my face. Bring on the next smell. And you bring it in. Ooh. Reading the Bible is like smelling that coffee bean, right? Resetting your palate. And I think a lot of us could use that. All right? So let's move on. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention is the cross is like a T-chart, a place to compare and contrast. And I think there's a lot of English teachers in here, right? Raise your hand if you're an English teacher. Booyah. Bam. Bingo. Anybody else an English teacher? Someone show in the back? Hey. Comparing and contrast. You know, when I think about how did the person, because you're a Christian, right? You call yourself a Christian. What did they do? What did they share with you when they shared with you the gospel? I can tell you what they shared with me. On the right side was God, and on the left side was man. And in the middle was sin. This simple message, right? And to cross this bridge, all you had to do was go across the cross, Jesus' cross. And Jesus became sin for you and filled in the gap for you so that you can go to the other side. And the comparison part, the contrasting part was on this side was life. On this side was love. On this side was something else. I forgot. On this side was darkness. This is my side. This is what I lived for all my life when I was 16 years old. This is all my life was about. Darkness, hatred, fear, anxiety, sin. And so I needed that contrast. And I think a lot of times we don't share that contrast when we share the gospel. We just say, you know, God's love, don't judge. And it's like, we need a judgment. We need to see who we are and who God is, you know, so that we can understand the glory of God. And we don't do that. Another thing I want you to see is this picture. This is probably the weirdest part of my sermon. But do you see the resemblance? Do you see the cross? Like every person in here has a cross. Do you see? We're made in the image of God. I know it sounds crazy and loopy. But a lot of animals don't look like this. They don't look like the cross. Chimpanzees, they don't look like the cross. Right? Monkeys, I don't know. But we look like this, and to think that God made us like this for a certain reason, to see the vision going from glory to glory, to behold, to look. There's so many things when I look at just a pair of eyes that are like, should bring you back to the cross. And so here's one of the comparisons of glory. You look at the law. Moses had so much goodness that came out of that, but it's like little glory. It was little glory. But the glory of the gospel is much more. And even more than the gospel, you have God himself. What's better than the gospel? What's better than good news? The person himself. I'm sure that Levi was excited to be married. That was probably his gospel this week. And to actually, you know, be married, to be one, that was glorification for him, right? I'm sure that was. So there's a lot of things. Instead of seeing God's back, we get to see the radiance of God's glory, like it says in Hebrews 1. We get to see the face. We get to see the things that Moses doesn't even get to see. And all that comes from the cross, the hour. So let's go ahead and read this verse. This is, if you're familiar with 2 Corinthians 3 and 4, this is some of the holiest verses in the entire Bible. Verse 6 says, "For God, who said, 'Light shall shine out of darkness,' is the one Specific, right? I love that. Specific. It's the one. It's not, a bunch. It's one who has shown in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Christ. So, very specific, very different level of glory. And this is some of the things that you should remind yourself with when you're not looking at glorious things, like your job. Like in Korea, I can't believe how workaholic people can be here. It's like I'm exhausted. My body is unhealthy because we're working so hard. This is not the culture in America. This is not the culture. And life seems cold and dark. You need to change what you're looking at, right? Change what you're looking at. So this glory isn't just a sight to win the unbeliever. The sight of this glory of Christ is just what makes the sight that the faces of the saints shine, right? When the saints see the glory of Christ, they blossom, don't they? They grow. They get more encouraged, more courageous. They grasp towards the light and move closer. It's like the sun rising on a cold winter morning. It's what warms us, wakes us up, makes us flourish. And this is what you see in Scripture. This is your sanctification, right? You should do a word study on this if you've never done one before. And you can see how aggressive this light is. This is not a passive light. Look at the force of these, what are these, verbs? The red verbs? Look at the force. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them, to Mary and Joseph, and the glory of the Lord shone around them. And they were filled, I love to scream on that, filled with great fear. Look at the light. Look at the light. The cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Right? This is not a low probability light. This is a dominant light. Revelation 21:23, and the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it. When's the last time you looked up at the sun or the moon and said, that's not strong enough. I need something more. That's not strong enough. When's the last time you did that? It's so cold in Korea, I know. It's freezing. But do that. Look at the sun and say, that's not good. That's not cutting it. That's not good enough. At noon, at 12 p.m., look at your watch. Look at the sun and say, that's not good enough for me. I need to look at something better. Do that. All right? You may seem silly, but it's true. All right? God's glory is much more than that. So there's an illustration from a certain preacher from London called Spurgeon. And it works something like this. He said, imagine you wake up tomorrow morning, everything is covered in snow like Friday. Hey, snow day. Yeah? It's covered in thick, deep snow. You can't move. The kind of snow that leads to ice. Right? And I want you to imagine this. This is a Christian I'm talking about, right? This is a Christian heart. Right? Full of snow. This could happen easily, right? To a Christian, you can be depressed. You can be full of anxiety, stressed out. And all these services come out, and they try to dig you out. Roadways, people are out there shoveling. You know, how long? It would take me 2 or 3 hours probably to get that little line right there. Right? And you work so hard, and you get so exhausted, and you do so little. Right? And then what happens? The sun comes out. The sun comes out. It's warming, spreading its light and warmth. In just a few hours, where's the snow? Where'd it go? You know, this happened in Korea like 2 or 3 times already. It snowed before here. And like in a couple hours it was gone. But this February snow, man, it's a different kind of snow. We have, you know, there's ice out there right now. And I slipped and fell on my back yesterday, taking the trash out. So there's ice out there. It's dangerous. Um, but this is the thing. This snow, this ice passes away. This is what the glory of Christ does. Where his face shines, where he smiles, hard frost melts away, doesn't it? Hard frost melts away. And I remember in Mongolia, it would snow in November. And that same ice, I would look at it every day until May. Every day until May. Kicking the same ice, avoiding the same little thing. And that's what life is like for a lot of people. Some people have ice for their whole lives in their heart. Here's a verse that Spurgeon went over. It's in Psalm 147. It says, he gives snow like wool. He scatters the hoarfrost like ashes. He casts forth his ice like morsels. And this is the part that I want you to see. Who can stand before his cold? Now, this isn't necessarily a hellfire and brimstone message, but this is an ice, hoarfrost, and snow message. Do you ever think of hell being as a cold place? You know, how terrible that would be? I teach physics, and if you were in outer space, like if you were just dropped out in outer space, how cold do you think it would be in outer space? Minus 270 degrees Celsius. That's just, on the Kelvin scale, that's just above zero. It's minus 273 on the Kelvin scale. So that's like absolute zero. And imagine you just wanting to get warm, doing whatever you can. You just can't get warm. I can see hell being like that. But in this verse it says, he sends out his word. His word is like the sun. It melts them. He causes his wind, the spirit to blow. And the waters flow. So compare God to everything that tempts you. Porn. This is a real thing. You know how many millions of people are looking at porn each day? The clickers just keep going off. 5 million, 6 million, 45 million, 75 million. If I put a video on YouTube, it might get 3 views. But this is like 45 or 100 million views, and it's the same shape of people's bodies that we've been seeing for thousands of years. There's nothing new under the sun. But yet we decide to worship it, and it's limited, right? How much better is the light of the glory of God in the face of marriage? What's the glory? How does the glory of porn compare to the glory of marriage in your eyes? It's not even comparable. Gossip, it's a short season, complaining, laziness. If you have a problem with sin, draw a T-chart. If you're having real problems and you really want to change, draw a T-chart. And look, compare the glories. Compare the glories that are there and see which one you want to be marked by, which one you want to be stamped by. Ooh, it's shiny. Ooh, look at those abs. Look at those wrinkles. You know, when you're young, you know, you feel enlightened. You feel radiant. You feel beautiful. But you know what? Moses wasn't trying to look beautiful, right? Well, I think a lot of times we just try to look beautiful. We don't even know what beauty is. We think it's like symmetry or something, like small noses or beautiful teeth, you know, like fresh, cold breath, not hot breath, like cold, you know, whiskey breath. And, but isn't it beautiful? People like Mr. Kim and the older saints that are here, and you get to know them, and they're not about themselves. They're not about their glory. You know, they're so sweet and kind, generous, patient, overlooking. They're a different breed. When you talk to young people, they don't have time. You know, they're frustrated with their own sin. They don't have time for yours, and it's just a different field. You know, they're too busy going to the gym, muscle gym. So again, you younger generations, how is it when you're particularly young? You just have a lot of strength. You feel awesome. I can go out. I can change the world with my adrenaline. I've got strength in my ability, and that goes away in like 3 months. All those muscles atrophy quickly. You burn out, right? It's not going to last long. But if you look to the glory of Christ, you fix your gaze on Him for your life, you will find a spiritual strength growing in you that will become stronger and stronger as you grow. You become more like Him. So what we were designed for, a picture of that verse. That'd be 18.